earlier. There are no signs of inflammation during the examination, and because usually it is we see this among women who have had unprotected vaginal penetrative sex. It increases the risk of acquiring HIV infection, other sexually transmitted infections such as gonorrhea, chlamydia, and herpes infections. The other conditions listed here on the left side of the column of your slide enumerates the differential diagnosis as well. So how do we then arrive with the diagnosis of bacterial vaginosis? No? So bacterial vaginosis, or BV, is a unique disturbance of the complex vaginal bacterial flora with the disappearance of your lactobacilli and overgrowth of Gardnerella vaginalis and resident anaerobic vaginal bacteria. In practice, we usually comply with your AMSEL diagnostic criteria, which we would need 3 out of 4 of the following for the criteria to be met. First is having a thin homogeneous vaginal discharge during history taking. During examination, you'll have a positive whiff test, which is an amine odor produced by mixing 10% of your potassium hydroxide solution with vaginal discharge sample. And lastly is the presence of your clue cells, which are present on your microscopy. The clue cells are epithelial cells covered by your adherent gram-negative rods in your vaginal smears. So they give the appearance of what we describe as speckled or stippled appearance by covered, since these cells are covered by your gram-negative bacteria. And lastly is having a vaginal pH of more than 4.5. So what are then the recommended treatment regimen for bacterial vaginosis according to the guideline? We have the following: metronidazole 500 milligram tablet, 1 tablet orally twice a day or 2 times a day for 7 days. Or you can also employ the use of your metronidazole gel, 0.75%, 1 full applicator intravaginally, OD for 5 days. Or a clindamycin cream 2%, 1 full applicator intravaginally at bedtime for 7 days. How else can we prescribe metronidazole for this case? If our patient is considered to be non-pregnant, we usually adhere to 500 milligrams tablet, 1 tablet twice a day for 7 days, or it can also, in a single dose, 4 tablets of your 500 milligrams. So that's 2 grams per ORM once a day single dose, or even having an extended release tablet of 750 milligrams tablet per ORM once a day for 7 days. For pregnant women, it's 500 milligram tablet, 1 tablet twice a day for 7 days, or 250 milligrams per ORM 3 times a day for 1 week. So what are the special considerations when taking your metronidazole? The following are what we can advise for our patient when prescribing metronidazole. First is refraining from alcohol use while taking metronidazole, or tinidazole is actually unnecessary. And I've seen a lot of studies, some are meta-analysis, which actually debunks the disulfiram-like effects when combining alcohol and metronidazole. So it's actually a controversy, and there's no sufficient data that produces your disulfiram-like symptoms when alcohol and metronidazole is combined. Second is women should be advised to refrain from sexual activity or to use condoms consistently and correctly during your BV or bacterial vaginosis treatment regimen. The third is douching might increase the risk for relapse. And lastly is there are no data to support the use of douching for treatment or even symptom relief. Okay, so that's for our first case. For case B, YUU, a 36-year-old female, single, a worker from a BPO, came in with a chief complaint of foul-smelling vaginal odor with yellowish discharge and vaginal pruritus. Upon history, she admitted that she had casual sex with her male coworker 6 days ago. No dysuria, no pelvic pain, no fever. On physical examination, no speculum exam, or rather, no speculum examination showed on speculum examination, it showed the strawberry appearing cervix with yellowing discharge. No cervical and pelvic tenderness on internal examination, and the wet mount microscopy showed the presence of actively motile flagellated organisms. So for the salient features of the case, we have a sexually active adult female who had recent exposure, unprotected penetrative sex with a strawberry appearing cervix and the wet mount microscopy showing your motile flagellated organisms. So upon looking at the case, actually, it falls or it inclined to have a diagnosis of trichomoniasis, which is caused by your Trichomonas vaginalis. And we often see this in our clinics and in our offices. No? Having a green or yellow frothy discharge, foul odor, and vaginal pain, or even soreness. And upon looking at direct inspection of your cervix, you have what we call as your strawberry-looking cervix. No? Because of the history of your unprotected penetrative vaginal sex. So it actually increases the risk of acquiring HIV infection, STI infection. There's also a increased risk of preterm labor, if the patient is pregnant. And the client should also be screened for other sexually transmitted infections, such as hepatitis B and C and syphilis. So trichomoniasis, it's the most prevalent and non-viral sexually STI in the world. No? Trichomonas vaginalis, a flagellate, is a common pathogenic protozoan of humans among industrialized countries. There's a higher prevalence among persons with multiple sexual partners and other venereal diseases. So we usually see this among those who have had multiple sexual partners and other STIs or VD. The incubation period of which, based on the literature, is anywhere from 5 to 28 days. The diagnosis of which is, we describe them as being motile flagellated protozoa observed on a saline microscopy, around 50 to 65% of sensitivity. But when you look at the gold standard when it comes to screening, we rely on your NAAT or your nucleic acid amplification testing for the diagnosis of trichomoniasis in symptomatic or high-risk women, achieving at least 100% sensitivity, which makes it a good screening test. Vaginal culture, unfortunately, it has a longer time needed for the results. Some would have up to 1 week or even longer. And for the samples, we usually get the samples from the endocervix, vaginal. We also have urine samples or specimens, particularly for the NAAT, or on a liquid-based pap test samples. What is then our recommended treatment regimen for this case, which has your trichomoniasis? For women, it's metronidazole 500 milligrams tablet, one tablet orally twice a day for 7 days. For men, it's metronidazole 500 milligrams tablet. It's 4 tablets on a single dose. So that's 2 grams orally in a single dose. The alternative for both men and women is your tinidazole, 2 grams orally in a single dose. Other non-pharmacologic advice or interventions that we provide for our patient are the following. First is to advise and educate our client to abstain from sex until they and their sex partners are actually treated. No? Once we know that your trichomoniasis is associated with other venereal diseases or STIs, so we should test for other STIs, including HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. Retesting for trichomoniasis after 3 months, especially among women, and concurrent treatment of all sex partners is vital for preventing reinfections. No? So we have to be open to our client and educate that our client is or should not only be treated, but the sex partners should be informed as well of the diagnosis and be offered treatment as well. Okay, for a third case, case C, YUE, a 35-year-old male, single, tricycle driver, an informal settler in Parañaque, who came in your clinic with a chief complaint of diarrhea for 2 weeks. Associated symptoms were the following: fever for a few days, nausea, crampy abdominal pain, bloody streaked stools, with the following vital signs: BP 120 over 80, cardiac rate of 90, RR of 20, and afebrile at the time of exam. The patient was conscious, coherent, not in distress, no signs of dehydration, good skin turgor, pink palpebral conjunctivae with moist oral mucosa. The patient took loperamide to relieve of the symptoms and oral rehydrating solutions, but no relief of your symptoms. So here is an actual or a clip from the American Family Physician on acute diarrhea in adults. So the recommendation from the Choosing Wisely campaign, it's highlighted here in red. If the symptoms of infectious diarrhea persists for about 7 days or even more, we should start with a molecular antigen testing and next consider a full OVA and parasitic microscopic exam if the results is negative. So continuing with the same reference, acute diarrhea in adults from the American Family Physician, usually this is to illustrate the difference between your non-inflammatory diarrhea and inflammatory diarrhea. For the history and physical examination, usually for non-inflammatory diarrhea, you'd only have nausea, vomiting, and abdominal discomfort. But for those infectious in origin, usually it's also accompanied by fever, abdominal pain, tenesmus, which is the feeling of straining, abdominal straining, even though your bowel is empty. So you go to the toilet or the comfort room to relieve of yourself, but nothing is going out. So that's the feeling of your tenesmus, as well as other systemic signs and symptoms. For the common infectious pathogens, for non-inflammatory diarrhea, it's usually caused by your bacteria in the form of your enterotoxigenic E. coli, Clostridium perfringens, Bacillus, Staph aureus, and Vibrio cholerae. Others include your rotavirus, norovirus, and parasites, or Giardia and Cryptosporidium. But for infectious in origin but inflammatory in nature, it's caused by your Salmonella, Shigella, Campylobacter, Shiga toxin producing E. coli, interinvasive E. coli, Clostridioides difficile, and Yersinia. And your parasitic, we have your Entamoeba histolytica. So upon the progress of the case, the 35-year-old male, the single tricycle driver, we requested for a stool examination, because the diarrhea had been going now for about 2 weeks. So the fecalysis showed the presence of cysts and trophozoites of your Entamoeba histolytica, confirming the diagnosis of your intestinal amoebiasis. So intestinal amoebiasis or amoebiasis is predominantly seen among developing countries, such as ours, due to poor sanitation and increased fecal contamination of water supplies. Globally, it affects around 50 million people, with over 100,000 deaths due to amoebiasis reported on a yearly basis. So what is the mode of transmission for intestinal amoebiasis? Usually through fecal oral route. No? So ingestion of water or even food contaminated by feces containing your entamoeba histolytica cysts. On a practical note, I've also seen patients, no, their source of ice, yellow, no, which is mixed with their drinks, can actually be a source of your intestinal amoebiasis. So we have to be very careful on the source of our food and water. The organism Entamoeba histolytica is viable for prolonged periods, no, in the form of your cystic form in the environment, no, because for it to survive the harsh environment and survive the elements, no, outside of the body, it exists in what we call as your cystic form, no, and once ingested, it transforms, no, into your trophozoite. Despite the global public health burden, there are actually no vaccines or even prophylactic medications to prevent amoebiasis. No? But really, the main preventive actions or activities for Entamoeba histolytica is actually to maintain good sanitation and good hygiene practices, particularly your hand washing. For history and physical examination, many of our patients with Entamoeba histolytica present a wide spectrum of illness. Around 90% are actually asymptomatic, no? Particularly when you have the cystic form of your Entamoeba histolytica. The incubation period from the time of ingestion to the appearance of your symptoms is anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. The symptoms should range from mild abdominal cramps and watery diarrhea to severe colitis, producing your bloody diarrhea with mucus, no? Because it actually produces the sloughing of your intestinal wall, thereby producing your bloody diarrhea. The most common extraintestinal manifestations are an amoebic liver abscess. How about for the diagnosis of your intestinal amoebiasis? It can be diagnosed by the demonstration of the organism using direct microscopy of stools or rectal swabs. So if that's the most accessible. Antigen detection using ELISA and PCR can also be performed if the institution has available means to go on with the diagnostic method. For blood tests, it may reveal the following: no? Elevated white blood cell count, eosinophilia in the differential count, elevated bilirubin and transaminase enzymes, SGPT, and your SGOT, mild anemia, and elevated ESR. Our management is first the the priority is to prevent dehydration, particularly for the case which our client has ongoing diarrhea for about 2 weeks now. In terms of pharmacologic interventions, the goal is actually to eliminate the invading trophozoites and eradicate intestinal carriage of the organism. So how do we do that? Is through prescribing your metronidazole, 500 to 750 milligrams tablet per ORM. It's one tablet every 8 hours for 7 to 10 days. And it's important, no, for the practice of good antimicrobial stewardship, or AMS, is to advise our client or our patient to complete the antibiotic even if the symptoms have resolved already. We have another case, YUE, a 35-year-old male, single travel blogger, was given 500 milligram tablet every 8 hours for 10 days. No? So the ORS volume per volume replacement was also prescribed, no? As mentioned, and for preventive measures, we educated the client on hand hygiene and proper sanitation. Now, the for the case D is in a way uh related, no, to our last case, no. So after a week, YOE came back recovered, but brought with him his 5-year-old niece, UY, with a weight of around 18 kilograms, who had experienced the same symptoms as his. No fever was noted at the time of examination, and amoebiasis was also confirmed through fecalysis. But this time, mild dehydration was noted for the pediatric patient. So this is a review for management of amoebiasis in children. The first is to prevent dehydration. So how do we do that? No? First, we have to identify which state, no, of dehydration is our patient is in. For mild dehydration, it's providing 10 ml per kilo of fluid replacement with your oral rehydrating solution per loose stool. For moderate dehydration, is 50 to 100 ml per kilograms or S for the first 2 to 4 hours. And for severe dehydration, it's rapid restoration of fluids through intravenous manner. They are required. For the pharmacologic interventions, the first is to eliminate the invading trophozoites and eradicate the intestinal carriage of the organism. So how do we prescribe your metronidazole for intestinal amoebiasis in children? It's metronidazole 35 to 50 milligram per kilo per RM divided into 3 doses. So that's every 8 hours for 10 days. And we also have to ensure and educate, no, the caregiver for this case, no, that the child should receive the antibiotic for full 10 days as part of the treatment. For the prevention, no, it's to identify possible sources of contamination at home and community. So environmental and behavioral risk factors. No? So we elicit this during history taking, no? Personal, social, and environmental history. So very important is to adhere to the practice of hand washing before eating, with the use of your soap, no? Hand washing after defecating or after using the toilet. The mother's occupation also um, has an effect or an influence, no, when it comes to your behavior risk factor, when it comes to hand washing, and the awareness of acquiring amoebiasis in the environment. No, so if we have good hygiene practices, good sanitation, a potable water supply, we would be preventing the occurrence of intestinal amoebiasis. So very important is to emphasize proper hand washing, for any of the activities, that involves our mouth. For the family and community-oriented interventions, we have the following. So it's very good, for the primary care physician, um, for the last case, to treat them, the uncle and the niece, So we have to screen for other family members and treat both asymptomatic and symptomatic members coming in with your intestinal amoebiasis. For alarming number of cases in a particular area, we have to coordinate with the local government units for further multi-sectoral collaboration. So if we have a friend who is a rural health physician or a municipal health officer or someone within our area who is a disease surveillance officer, for the alarming number of cases of your intestinal amoebiasis, we have to inform them, because a possibility of an outbreak investigation can be performed, but that we leave that to our disease surveillance officers. But as primary care physicians, within the clinic, within the hospital, we have to inform our disease surveillance officers for a growing number of cases of amoebiasis. So that is our responsibility for surveillance, no, active surveillance of your reportable diseases. Metronidazole, no, which is the highlight of our evening for the medication for the evening. The mode of action actually inhibits the nucleic acid synthesis, excuse me, by disrupting DNA and causing strand breakage. It's amoebicidal, it's bactericidal, and trichomonicidal now, as we have um, realized now with the cases that we have discussed. For the absorption, 80% bioavailability, absorption from the GI tract through per RM. The protein binding is less than 20%, and with the peak serum time of 1 to 2 hours. So actually, if the gastrointestinal tract is working, it's a good practice to give it via orally, no? Because in a way they have the same um, absorptive, no, capacity with the IV preparation. So if the gut is working, we have to prescribe metronidazole per RM. It's widely distributed, similar pattern for per RM and IV administration. For metabolism, it's being metabolized by the liver. The enzymes inhibited is your hepatic CYP2C9. For the elimination in our body, the half-life is 25 to 75 hours for neonates, 8 hours, no, for other population, and prolonged in patients with your hepatic impairment. For excretion, it is excreted 77% in the urine and 14% via the feces. So the very important question for this evening, are all metronidazole the same? No? So there are products marketed which have different biopharmaceutical properties and were not equivalent in vitro. No? So a lot of studies supporting this claim. For patient safety, the clinicians, primary care physicians should generally be cautious to assume that formulations sold across national boundaries are therapeutically equivalent, even when labeled to contain the same drug substance and strength. And further studies are needed to confirm similarities with the innovator brands in the living organisms. No? So, before we conclude this webinar or the seminar, we have the following summary. First, metronidazole is indicated for the treatment of BV, bacterial vaginosis, trichomoniasis, and intestinal amoebiasis. It is a drug that inhibits your nucleic acid synthesis, widely distributed in the body, 80% bioavailable in the gastrointestinal tract, and majority are metabolized in the liver, excreted in the urine. We as family physicians and primary care physicians should be cautious in assuming that all available metronidazole in the market are therapeutically equivalent to the innovator drug because in vivo studies are actually still lacking. So we have to emphasize no, during patient education, during client education, that the innovator drug is of superior value no, when um, compared no, with the studies that are coming out. So these are my references for this lecture. And that will be my last slide. Thank you for listening. Good evening, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Laksamana, for sharing with us and enlightening us in the use of metronidazole, especially in our practice nowadays. So let us now go to the Q&A portion, Doc. There are a lot of questions for you that should be answered. For the first question, Doc, can we give metronidazole at any stage of pregnancy?
Yes, Dr. Emma. So if our patient is having, let's say, trichomoniasis, and it's indicated as I've shown a slide earlier. It can actually be given for pregnant patients. So it can be given for any of the trimester of our pregnancies.
All right. So for the next question, Doc, to reiterate, it's safe to be given at any trimester of
Yeah.
pregnancy. Okay, from anonymous attendee, Doc, again. Good evening po, Doc. I would like to clarify regarding the role of zinc for its immune-enhancing properties to reduce the risk of GI infections. Will also this be a good recommendation from recovery as an adjunct together with metronidazole?
Well, actually, Doc, in our practice, no, the role of zinc has a bigger role among pediatric patients with gastroenteritis or acute diarrhea. It also has a role for adults of providing zinc for 14 days, no, for 2 weeks, no. And I haven't come across a study which combines your metronidazole and your zinc if it actually improves outcomes for patients with gastroenteritis. So perhaps it's a good topic for for quality assurance or for EBM. But in general, for acute diarrhea, definitely the provision of your zinc sulfate, no, elemental zinc, is a good practice for patients with acute diarrhea for 14 days.
All right. Could I add another
Yes.
question for that? How about, Doc, if you would add with ano naman po, probiotics? Have you encountered with it from your readings? How about probiotics when it comes to the diarrhea po?
Yes, Doc. For probiotics, actually, the clinical practice guideline has mentioned specific probiotics, no? Um, I forgot, but the lactobacillus is one of them. Flexneri, if I'm not mistaken. I think there are three of those probiotics which has evidence. They have evidence when it comes to providing or improving outcomes of diarrhea. So not all probiotics are the same actually. So we might have to revisit the CPG and look for the specific type of lactobacillus for our patients with acute diarrhea.
Okay, so we still go back. It's not a left and right we prescribe whatever that we could give to our patient, but then we should review for the treatment of our patient. Another question, Doc, here. Can we treat our patients with blastocystis homini in their stool exams with metronidazole?
If you can help me with this one, Doc, but it's not common for my practice to see that kind of an isolate of an organism. But with the lecture that I've provided for our patients now coming in with diarrhea for more than 2 weeks, so it might be a good practice no, to request for a stool examination. And if we have isolated an ova or a parasite, no, we can safely give your metronidazole for that, particularly for those with diarrhea for more than 2 weeks.
Yes, I agree with you, Doc. Also see for that, if we could, as long as
Okay.
it's indicated for the metronidazole treatment po. Yan. There are a lot of questions here, Doc, but some
Yeah.
are halos pare-parehas naman sila. So,
Yes, Doc.
eto, Doc, can we start giving or prescribing metronidazole for amoebiasis if we suspect amoebiasis but there's no fecalysis po?
Yes, particularly for resource-limited situations, no, Doc Ruema, yung malayo talaga sa laboratory. We have, wala tayong medtech sa ating mga, let's say, clinics, no? And if clinically, if it's a high index of suspicion, no, diarrhea, tapos watery, blood tinge yung stools, and Doc Ruema, perhaps in your practice also, no? Ang commonality talaga nila is cramps, colicky abdominal pain, no? And after we've started them with your metronidazole, eventually na-relieve sila. So in my practice, if it has a high index of clinical suspicion, tapos you're in a resource limited situation, I would not question your judgment of providing metronidazole for the case.
Doc Noel, you know what, they've been helping us also. There's such thing daw po ng certain strain for the probiotic. It the wait lang, scroll ko lang.
Yeah.
Saccharomyces boulardii po,
Saccharomyces.
according to the CPG daw po. Thank you for that,
Oh,
for
thank
sharing it with
you.
us.
At
Ayan.
least interactive tayo, Doc.
Yes. They're
Yeah.
listening also. How about po, Doc, yung, eto, magandang question ito. It so happens, siguro maybe it's an incidental finding from ultrasound. Can we treat, how do we treat the amoebic liver abscess if it's only less than 5 centimeter?
Oh, okay. Well, for this case, probably Doc Ruema, it would be prudent to ask for the opinion of our friendly gastroenterologist, no, Doc. But I think we can start naman with your metronidazole based on we have the therapeutic indication for it, no? And advice na lang, navigate the patient to our friendly gastroenterologist para ma-manage siya.
Mhm.
For me.
Yes, Doc. Very SDN, Doc. Total,
Oo nga.
we could still refer, di ba? If in doubt, we
Yes.
could still have our friends that to our, especially to our gastroenterologist. But if you started, it's no problem naman. How about, Doc, in the management of the side effects of metronidazole, like metallic taste or GI discomfort, is it reversible and manageable?
Naku, Doc, that's the problem eh. Our approach to that is actually patient education. Anticipatory approach, no, Doc, talagang sabihan na natin in advance na once you start taking it, you'll have the following side effects, no. They're not fatal, no, or they're not harmful in any way, but they are parang um, parang discomfort na. So hindi naman siya talagang masama in a way. But again, we have to educate our client. That's part of the treatment, no?
Yes, no. Parang kahit
Yeah.
sobrang daming patients, pero if we educate our patients naman, at least hindi na nila sasabihin, hindi nasabi, hindi ko natanong, at least
Yes.
sa atin mismo, nagawa natin yung part natin to educate
Yeah.
them that this could happen. Ito
Tama daw.
po. I don't know. Is it okay if metronidazole tablet be given intravaginally? I don't think so. If no available vaginal suppositories.
Oh, because the medication was prepared for it to be taken per orem, Doc, no? So I think it would not be prudent to give it intravaginally. May
And
suppository pa rin naman.
yes po. Kung wala talaga, then taken the oral as
Orem
recommended
lang.
naman, pwede naman pa rin naman po.
Yes, per orem na lang.
Per orem na lang. Side effects, I think you have discussed with the side
Yes.
effects na rin po, Doc.
Mentioned
How
earlier.
about those patients taking anticoagulants and then so happy we would be prescribing metronidazole? Is there any drug-to-drug interaction with that?
Doon talagang residente ko.
Huli ka.
Jethro, so far, I haven't encountered we have to review, no, the drug-to-drug interaction for that, no. But so far with the literature that we've provided, wala naman masyadong like a critical siya, no, for it to be na contraindicated siya when you're providing it with an anticoagulant, no. So we have to weigh the risk versus the benefit for the patient, no. So if makakapag-benefit siya sa patient, why not give it, no? Yeah.
Ito po, Doc. Parang can we give metronidazole to babies? And if can we combine it with the racecadotril?
For the Rasicado trill kasi doc, it's symptomatic approach to prevent diarrhea. If I'm not mistaken, it's good for osmotic diarrhea, doc, no? Not really for infectious type of diarrhea. So, and then if it's indicated to provide the metronidazole, we have the indication to give it. No, we can give it 35 to 50 mk day in 3 doses, no? In 3 divided doses.
Dok, kaya pa? Sobrang daming questions.
Ang daming questions nga, doc.
Sobrang daming questions. I think is it also safe in breastfeeding mothers if so happen we will be prescribing
Oo nga,
metronidazole?
no? Um, well, paano ba, doc? Um, again, it's if it's clinically indicated to provide, no, doc, um, your metronidazole, no? Um, Perhaps we can look for other, kung may milk bank, di ba, doc, naman, we can look for sources of breast milk, or at times before the mother is going to take the medication, mag-breastfeed na, no? So baka after taking it, pwedeng hindi mo na kaagad-agad mag-breastfeed.
Or the timing po, Doc, no? We advise that naman to our patients,
Yeah.
yung before mag-breastfeed mo na bago inom ng gamot or after, mga
Yes.
ganyan. Ayan.
Yes, doc.
Ayan. So, paano ito? Nasabi niyo po kanina, it's not equivalent daw every metronidazole. So, how sure are we that if ever po yung metronidazole daw is prescribed in generic meds, ganyan, how can we assure our patients that we're giving the bioequivalent metronidazole?
Okay. Kasi doc, di ba ang innovator medications, well, the reason in a way na they're not cost effective, it's because of the research that is involved, um, created behind them. Madaming na-invest kasi na clinical research, no? Kaya we have to explain to the patient na ito yung innovator drug, no? Hindi po ibig sabihin na pag tapos na yung patent niya, madami na pong mga generic na um, medications of similar ingredient ay i-claim na nung generic yung clinical research na nagawa nung innovator, no? So it's quite a challenge for the primary care physicians, no, to convince our clients, no. But we really have to emphasize to them na yung innovator talaga, no, doon nagbuhos ng investment ang drug company behind the research, no, kaya makakasiguro tayo na effective siya, less side effects, no? So yun, doc, what I provide education to my clients.
Till we go back how we will educate. It's not the mere fact we just give the prescription to our patient. Take time to educate our patients talaga. Ito, Doc, I think it's in the lecture kanina, but I will just highlight it again. Yung, are we going to treat pa daw ba yung asymptomatic sexual partners? Diba of patients with trichomoniasis po. Sabi naman ni Doc kanina, yes, para to prevent the spread of further of the infection. Yan. Ito po,
Yes.
Doc. Can we give metronidazole IV if ever our patients could not tolerate per oral meds treating amoebiasis?
Yes, doc. Since in the literature and in the lecture kanina, parang same yung bioavailability nila, no? When you give it either IV or per oral. So in cases talaga na let's say we have a patient na continuously vomiting and cannot tolerate your oral medications, no? We have an indication to provide it via IV. No?
Ito po, Doc. How about po yung difference of the effectivity for the treatment of vaginosis between combination vaginal tablets versus oral metronidazole, Doc?
Okay. Um, I haven't come across with comparing the two pharmacologic interventions, but based on what we have learned for this evening, what what of our choices would be giving metronidazole orally, or pwede rin naman yung vaginal na preparation, no? So ano siya or hindi
Yes.
siya yung combined, no, for BV.
Siguro ano din yung follow-up to check if the medication is working, ganyan. So, it could help also for us yan. Another, okay. Ang dami pa do questions. I'll just pick some. Ito, considering antibiotics to worksheet, how many months po yung interim before we can prescribe it again po?
Okay. Paano ba, Doc? By practice siguro. Uh, on my practice, I rotate in general, no, medications every 3 months. Or hindi naman rotate, but I ask for the most recent na intake of the antibiotic. Or kailan po kayo huling nakainom ng antibiotic for the past 3 months? Or nakainom ba kayo ng antibiotic for the past 3 months? If yes, no, probably that's a good window to provide na we have to look for alternatives rather than repeat the medication or the antibiotic.
In the
Yun lang.
interest of time, Doc, so many questions. We could siguro give you can answer this, Doc, siguro. You can send it to email or answer their questions. Okay, sige. Let's give the questions to Dr. Noel na lang, and then we'll be answering it off po, and then we'll give the answers to you. Thank you very much, Doc Noel, for your generously answering the questions, and for enlightening us in how we will be adding metronidazole in our practice. May isang pahabol pala, Doc. I was reviewing the medications in consulta. Metronidazole pala is not yet there. If tama ba? Opo. So better let's see what others could happen. Baka it's ano pa naman eh. Let's see if it will be added soon.
Unbox naman, Doc.
Opo.
So we have
Okay.
to look for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc Noel, and thank you for engaging with us and having this lecture discussing with us. Thank you po. Good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Emma.
And for actively participating. Dystrophy, as your partner in health and wellness, is committed in providing quality health care to our dear patients. And to highlight our brands, may I call our medical representative from Dystrophy, Ellie Ramilian.
Good evening, dear doctors. I'm Eliazar Emiliano, Dystrophy's medical representative in Zamboanga City. We would like to take this opportunity to highlight the brands, market, and distribute in partnership with Sanofi. For patients suffering from amebiasis, gardiasis, and unspecific vaginitis, we have Metronidazole Flagyl Forte, 500 mg film-coated tablet, the innovator Metronidazole tablet, priced at 38.75 pesos per tablet. For children, we also have Metronidazole Flagyl, 125 mg per 5 ml oral suspension, priced at 125.50 per 60 ml bottle. Both Metronidazole Flagyl Forte 500 mg film-coated tablet and Metronidazole Flagyl 125 by 5 ml oral suspensions are available in Mercury drugstores, Watsons, Southstar, and other drugstores for the convenience of your patient. For patients suffering from vaginitis due to Trichomonas vaginalis, Gardnerella vaginalis, bacterial vaginosis, Candida albicans, and other fungal infections, we have Metronidazole plus Nystatin, Flagellstatin, 500 mg per 100,000 IU, vaginal suppository with convenience once daily dosing. Metronidazole plus Nystatin, Flagellstatin, vaginal suppositories are priced at 115.50 per suppository, and is available in Mercury drugstores and other leading drugstores accessible to your patients. Doctors, we are also an exclusive marketer and distributor of furosemide Lasix, glimepiride Solosa, glimepiride plus metformin Solosamet SR, hydroxychloroquine sulfate Plaquenil, and amiodarone hydrochloride Corderone. These are available in Mercury Drug and other leading drugstores and hospital pharmacies. Thank you, doctors, for your kind attention, and please feel free to let us know your thoughts about our brands. You may type in the chat box the first thing that comes on your mind when you hear the word metronidazole flagyl, metronidazole plus nystatin flagylsatin. We hope that you can consider in the medicines we offer for the benefit of your patients. Thank you.
Doctors, we have come to an end of our program. To close, may we call on the Vice President of the Philippine Academy of Family Physicians, Dr. Josefina Isidro Lapena.
Okay, magandang gabi po sa ating lahat out there in the virtual world. So, I am here now in Manila. I'm sure you're all scattered everywhere else. Webinars are really very important for us family doctors. If you're practicing, you really cannot afford not to have all of these webinars. Kahit na napakarami na because of the Zoom options now that we have it. Now, as we close this webinar tonight, we would like to thank several people, of course. The first one would be the organizer for this activity, coming both from our side, the CPD committee, and also from our pharmaceutical partner, Distrifil Philippines. So we're always gratified by the fact that we are able to provide additional learning for our family doctors through your help. We also would like to thank our very own Dr. Noel Laksamana from Bataan. Hi, Noel. Well done for your lecture. And Omi, I call them by their nicknames, for moderating the session tonight. Lastly, I would like to thank all of those who participated through the Q&A and all those who listened to this evening's webinar. Thank you very much for your attendance and your participation. And with this, we would like to close this evening session. Good
All
evening.
right, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lapena. And once again, thank you very much, dear doctors, for joining the PAFP webinar presented in partnership with Distrifil. I'd like to call the Medical and Regulatory Affairs Head of Distrifil, Dr. Christian James Amel, for a brief message.
Good evening, doctors. In behalf of Distrifil, we wish to thank you for joining us this evening. This is just a message of thanks, first to the Philippine Academy of Family Physicians, led by its president, Dr. Karin Estepa Garcia, Vice President, Dr. Josefina Isidro Lapena. Thank you very much for always trusting Distrifil to be your partner in delivering CMEs since 2020. We would also like to thank our speaker, Dr. Noel Laksamana, and our moderator for tonight, Dr. Ruema Peralta Perez, for the insights and knowledge they shared with us this evening. Also, to our partners, Sanofi Aventis Philippines, thank you very much for the support, most especially for our webinar registration and platform for this evening. And also to the Distrifil team who worked on this event, or to make this event possible. Thank you very much. In partnership with local and multinational pharmaceutical companies such as Sanofi, Distrifil remains committed to provide Filipino patients with relevant, high-quality, and accessible healthcare solutions. Rest assured that we will continue to work with the PAFP to continue to bring you relevant and high-yield continuing medical education activities for the continuous betterment of the Filipino family physician. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you po, doctors. Thank you, Dr. Laksamana and Dr. Perez.
Thank you
Maraming
po.
salamat po.
Bye po.
Thank you po.
Doc, open tayo ng camera, picture tayo.
Sino magpipicture?
Yeah. Miss Marian, pwede pa suyo pa,
Sige, ma'am.
screenshot. Thank you.
Ito, 1. Kayo na po ba sila? 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you po,
Thank you po. Bye-bye
doctors.
po.
Thank you, Sanofi team. Thank you, Ma'am Nadia and Marian. Ingat po
Thank you,
kayo.
Sam.
Salamat
Thank you,
po.
doctors. Dr. Perez, Dr. Laksamana, Dr.
Thank you
Labena,
po.
salamat po. Marian, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you Thank po. you. Bye-bye po. Bye, doctor.